All right. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies, we are live. What a cool show I got for you guys tonight. I have a very cool guest. And man, what can you say? I've been absent for a little bit. The channel is growing slowly. We're just trying to get things back on track. But without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm super excited. Now, unless you're living under a rock, you've heard of this company forever. It was founded in 1991 in Florida by George Kelgren. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, Kelgren. And I've been a fan of this company for a long time. And now that I've been shooting a little bit more, I'm even a bigger fan of this company. So without further ado, let's bring on Adrian from KelTec. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, man. It's going. And, it's funny. I've been telling everybody how big of a fan I am of this newest reiteration of the sub 2000 because the first one I didn't like too much. And I caught so much flack. KelTec has a rabid fan base, and they sure let me know how much I was wrong. And the KelTec sub 2000 was the greatest gun ever made. And I just said it just wasn't for me. But the new Gen 3, hands down, is unreal. So,
Well, I want to say the feedback's important. We're not a static gun manufacturing company. I mean, you see the stuff we do. I just like to make the plug for all the folks out there. If a gun was designed by somebody else, because we're a design centric company, we don't do it. Eugene Stoner, Browning. I mean, we may touch some flavors of this, but if it was done by anybody else, if it's not patentable, we really don't explore that. And there's a lot of mechanical systems that, it's infinite what you can come up with. But the feedback, from Gen 2 to what inspired Gen 3 was that criticism. And honestly, healthy criticism is never wrong. We listen. I kind of like the dynamic for the software nerds out there is like a patch update. It's like, all right, we're kind of getting binged on this. We're getting dinged on that. Let's take a look at this when we come up with the next iteration and see if we can clean this stuff up. And we love to do this. I mean, that feedback's important. It's healthy. And if you're not flexible with that, you're just going to get buried out there.
yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Um, so let's talk a little bit about you. How are you related to the company? How are you involved with KelTec?
So nepotism at the end of the day. So my father, George Kelgren, he founded the company, and back in '91, it was actually a machine shop for Grendel at the time. And I had really no intention of looking into that. I actually left and joined the Navy, and I did a full career in the U.S. Navy. I'm actually still in. I'm a lieutenant commander at our local NOSC in Orlando.
Oh,
I
nice.
was a Navy pilot. I love the ocean. I love sailing. I love flying. And I flew the E-2C Hawkeye. I was deployed on the USS Carl Vinson. 2 deployments, North Arabian Sea. Flew over Afghanistan, Iraq, Persian Gulf. Anti-piracy operations. Back in 2012, you probably heard some of the ships were taken over by pirates, but we shut that stuff down pretty damn fast out there. When you get heavy-handed with pirates, they go away, and that's once they capture enough ships, you lose your patience, and then we take care of business. But I was sitting after a hard night landing, and I was kind of reevaluating my life decisions. And one of the things that I always remembered was service-oriented enterprise like the Navy or Army or Air Force. You have to provide a context and objective that is selfless. And looking back into how I was raised, and I always knew my father was designing firearms, and he was a very soft-spoken man. He doesn't talk a lot. So you have to actually observe carefully to determine what, in fact, are his motivations for whatever he does. And for me, in a service-oriented environment, I thought to myself that the ability for us to design and develop next generation self-defense articles that give power to the powerless, that gives us a say in that 1 second of a moment where somebody wants to take your life or compel you to do something you want to do. You have a choice now, physically, to say no, to de-escalate the situation or defend your life. And that for me became kind of a service-oriented option to go into in the civilian world. And honestly, we were deploying a lot, and having stability, having the ability to use some of my talents within the Navy, as well as my degree, which was aerospace engineering. Now, mechanical engineering is not the same as flavored, similar, but then applying that into our product. So I'm actually relatively new. I've been doing this for about 6 years now. And the company, early on had its kind of growth and genesis from innovative products. And what I brought into it in the last 6 years was kind of an intense focus on procedure, on quality, on repeatability, on an understanding within the entire workforce to focus on the important aspect of what we in fact do, which is develop a product that gives somebody the ability to say no when compelled physically by somebody else, either through home invasion or going out to the range and shoot. But we kind of primarily focus on that space is self-defense.
Yeah, and it comes in at always relatively bargain price. Real quick, let's look at the chat. Let's look at the chat, see who's in here. We have Lucky Dog. What's going on, buddy? Donald, the firearm guy. Oh man, this is my YouTube mentor here. Most innovative manufacturer in the industry. I can go with that. I can go with that. The critical critic, he's Navy. Vanessa Kitty,
Awesome.
welcome. Anybody in the chat, do me a favor. If you have a question, now that we got someone here from KelTec, let's ask them everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Not too personal, but let's just ask them some really cool stuff. Now let's unpack a little bit what you said about the anti-piracy, because my day job, I work for a major carrier, the biggest carrier in the world, actually. And when you move cargo through certain canals and certain areas of the world, how in the world are these Houthi rebels just devastating all? I mean, we can't even use that lane anymore, and it's just, can't the U.S. stop that? I mean, how hard is it to get rid of these quote unquote rebels, even though they're funded pretty well? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer.
It seems like it. I mean, you have to kind of look at the country where it's operating out of. I mean, it shows, one, you can determine that Yemen has a territorial control problem. And, to some extent, you can think Mexico is similar with their inability to stop, the cartels out there. But this is a similar situation. So you'd have to balance attacking a sovereign nation, which essentially Houthi rebels are a cartel. And to what extent would we determine, hey, we're going to go like a powerful cartel in Mexico? When are we going to bomb Mexico because their cartel is out of control and bombing trade? So you can kind of see there's a little bit of geographical, political,
Valid point.
At some point you lose your patience. At some point it's going to affect the global community. And so, the decision makers have to kind of weigh that entire world. We can shut that down immediately, but what relationship do we have with the controlling government? The attacks on there, would that be a escalation? Would we be declaring war on Yemen actual, or just a region in there controlled by a rebel group? It's a very complex situation.
Yeah, and they're super well funded. These are not bottle rockets they're shooting at these cargo vessels.
Clearly not. They're clearly funded by an entity that has the ability and technology to attack ships, off the coast, and that's a tricky situation.
Nice. So you're still in the Navy. So I have to ask you another question. So you've actually landed and taken off from carriers?
Yep. So I flew E2 Hawkeyes, the Charlie variant for my combat deployments, and then the E2D, the Delta variant, was our first squadron. The VAW 125 was the one that stood that platform up. And basically, what this aircraft does, it provides an awareness to tactical aircraft around our space. Because when you send up fighter jets out there, they have a very narrow vision. So
what does a Hawkeye look like?
Well,
is that the one with the dome on top?
It's a giant dome. It's a giant dome. We're the fat kids on a carrier, so you have to have thick skins and we're the only squadron on it. There's like 6, fighter squadrons, so you have to have a good sense of humor, and you have to be pretty fun out in port to hang out with those guys. But that's we are the fat kid on a carrier.
Yeah, that looks like it's probably a lot harder to land on a carrier than a regular fighter jet.
You got to Well, you got to take care of center line, and there's no auto landing in that airplane. It's 100% manually controlled all the way down to touchdown, and you don't have a HUD, so you're looking at the Fresnel lens, your angle of attack inside your airplane, your vertical descent rate on a gauge, and you're putting all that together, and it's coming down. You're kind of looking like you're riding a bike. You know, you have the throttles in one hand, you have the the yoke in the other, and you're working your rudder because both engines spin in the same direction. So you add power, the plane's going to go this way. You reduce power, plane's going to go that way. So you're constantly working it. So it's the guys that do it are very talented pilots, and they don't get a lot of recognition. Sometimes we'll pop up in a movie just in the background. Hey, we're saying some stuff, but end of the day, we're essentially the quarterback of the fleet. We provide the awareness for everybody to do their job. There's a reason why this platform hasn't disappeared since the 1960s. It's been around for quite a while.
Yeah, very cool. All right, we do have a question. Scott
All
in the
right.
chat says, any new mag compatibility coming out for the 9mm Gen 3 sub 2000?
So if you guys are familiar with our Gen 2 series, we came out with a multi-mag variation. It was fairly popular. It allowed us to take an interchangeable mag catch to allow, and it basically was a mag catcher that you used two Allen keys. You pop these two out, take the plate out, and you put in another one. It was, for various styles of magazines out there, and that's something that we want to bring into the Gen 3. Now, my vision and the vision of the company is to look at the sub 2000 itself as a class platform. It's a blowback carbine that folds in half and it now twists to allow for optics to be installed. And you can think that it's easy to iterate itself into various caliber classes out there. So to allow the maximum versatility within that platform is a focus of ours, and something you'll see as we move forward in the years to come.
Outstanding. Now, obviously, your dad designs guns, and that must have been cool. Was he doing that since you were like a little kid?
Oh yeah, that's that. So he's one of the first people that if you ever talk to him and say, "Hey, when are you going to retire?" He's 81 years old now. Are you ever going to retire? And he kind of shrugs and says, "Retire from what?" In his mind, he doesn't work. He essentially does a hobby that he could do in his garage that he does on a mass scale and makes money. And so he's never really worked a day in his life. He loves
So
what he
few
does.
people can say that. That's
That
amazing.
that's the secret sauce. If you end up in a profession that you love to do and you can make money out of it, it's self-sustaining. And honestly, he would do it whether or not it made money or not. And there's a lot of, like, for me, I'll go and rent airplanes and pay money to rent airplanes and fly. And I was in a profession where I flew airplanes. So, flying in that profession was something that I generally enjoy doing, as well as manufacturing of firearms is one of those things where you're just motivated to do it. So if you find yourself in that space, that's super important. But right now, we allow him the creative license. He does whatever he wants to, but right now he has a creative license to just fully focus on design development, because the hard lift of actually running the company, all the daily business of accounts receivable, vendors, distributors, logistics, global sales, that's all now handled by the second generation. And he can sit back right now and just sit on his computer and develop some of the coolest things in the world. And we were talking to an engineer. He was applying to be a product design engineer. Really, really nice guy. And my father pointed out that his greatest designs and development really happened after the age of 65. So you're never out of the woods, or you're never done with the potential to create and do new things. And I think that's very important, that as long as you're in something you enjoy doing, you don't care. And a lot of people ask, KelTec, hey, why did you do this? Nobody asked for that. Why did you, do whatever? George really doesn't listen to what the people want. He builds and makes stuff that he would like. That if he was in a gun store, he would look for something and he's like, oh, I would buy that. And that kind of goes into, Henry Ford. He was famous in quoting, said, if I listened to what people wanted, they would have wanted faster horses. So, that's kind of the innovator mind out there. They're visionaries. They kind of see a different depth of, where the product line is.
Yeah, very cool. We did have a question. What aircraft carrier were you on?
I was on the USS Carl Vinson. primarily. So CVN 70, and we're based out of San Diego. I was a East Coast based squadron in Norfolk, and to go deploy to there, we had to fly all the way to San Diego, and off we went.
Oh,
So
San Diego, what a
Carl Mason.
terrible, awesome city
I
to
know.
see
I didn't get to live there. I didn't get to live there. I got to visit there
all
before
that
leaving on
beautiful
deployment.
sunshine. Ugh.
I know. Ugh.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, so you've been with KelTec officially, well, your whole life really, but so officially 6 years.
Yeah.
And in that 6 years, if you could pick, I know we kind of discussed this at SHOT Show, so I think I know what gun you might pick. Out of those 6 years, what is the coolest gun you think has come out in that 6 years?
So I personally really like the P17 pistol, and the reason for that is just how simple it is. That's I even think we do public tours over at the factory. So if you ever or anybody's in town, we do those every Wednesday, public tours. I was thinking of creating a tour, like a special tour where you can build your own gun from scratch, because the P17 is so easy. I mean, it's a clamshell design, and inside when you look into it, you can see all those springs and mechanisms that allow it to function properly, and you can actually put those together yourself with all the core components like a Lego set. And I think it's just a really cool, simple pistol. And you can see it, the safety mechanism work. You can see the camming systems, the hammer, how it works, where the spring tensions are laid out. You can see, you can even probably envision ways to improve it. And I think that's an inspiring, pistol. And a lot of NRA training courses will buy these P17s because it's a very simple process. Has a detachable magazine, and has a manual safety in there, and it basically is a good fundamental pistol to help train, as well as if you class it up with a hotter round, it has some self-defense applications as well.
I wonder if you could do like a clear polymer frame so you could see how it worked internally. Like, you know how they do. That would be pretty awesome.
Actually, that would be really cool. I even thought of just, I talked to some guys saying, hey, would it be neat if we just sold a kit for the P17? It just comes out in the parts, and you build it like a Lego, and then you shoot it, and now you've built a gun. But I've talked to some folks about that. It seems
That
cool.
would be pretty cool.
I'd buy it. I'd sit there and tinker with it and put it together.
Yeah, I'd
It's not
buy it.
super. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. JJ Rainey in the chat says, now that would be fun to build your own gun at the factory. Yeah, that
would be cool. Yeah, I just want to see, like, I want to walk through it myself. There's some parts of the assembly that needs some assistance. If you guys have, like, if you ever work with models or anything like that, you have to hold spring tension with one hand, and then you have to put a pin in there, and it can get cumbersome. So what we do to help speed up the process on a mass scale, we develop these special tools to help hold things in place. And so I'd want it to be out of the box, or anybody on the tour, where you sit on a station and just start with your frame, which is a serialized frame, the actual core component, and then you build it up from there all the way to the end. So you can see the whole process. And then we probably wouldn't let a customer do this, but we'll take it back into the test fire range where we do the proofing process to test the chambers, pressure, and all that. I think if we ever did a kit, we'd pre-proof those in a fixture, so we know they're perfectly fine.
Yeah, very cool. That's such a good idea. I would do the kit, because the gun itself, which I have not seen them in stores. I've looked casually every time I go into a gun store. I never see it. And when they do get them, they're gone immediately. I've never seen one in the wild.
Well, let me know where that is, because I try really hard. We make that particular pistol, I ship about 2,000 a week, and we go through a distribution process. So I like feedback from folks that say, hey, I'm over at Bob's gun store, and he never has your product. Like, really? I went, who is this distributor? Where are they sending the products? Sometimes it's illuminating to find out how that model works.
Yeah. Okay. So guns I've owned that are KelTecs. I have owned the Sub 2000 original. Wasn't a fan at that Gen 2. The Su 16, I bought one. I thought that was a really cool design. I loved it. I thought that was the coolest gun. I ended up selling it because my neighbor wanted it so bad, and he offered me like more than what I paid for it. So I was like, yeah, if you really want it that bad, You can always buy it again. I've been able to shoot the PMR 30, which I thought was really cool. The RD50 was odd to me. Cool gun, but it just kind of took forever to load that magazine. I wasn't feeling it. For anybody here, that was the 5.7 where they took the FN magazine, right? And it kind of loaded and flitted. I got to shoot it. It was cool, but then I had to reload the mag. I'm like, this is taking forever.
50 rounds. It's yeah. So we actually developed in-house a speed loader for that, and it was pretty cool. It still is. Trying to find a place to mass manufacture a 5.7 speed loader for the PS90. So basically, you take your rounds, you take your box ammo, you put it in this, and then it basically feeds everything. And you just do that, and it loads it real fast.
Oh my god, that would have been a
Yeah.
game changer.
It's going to be stolen by the Chinese the second I bring this to market. And so we use it in house when we're doing. So obviously, we have to load magazines for the test fire team. So they're like, this, the PS90 takes forever to load. It's like, all right, let's develop something for that. But if there's, yours is a great anecdote to say we probably should bring that thing to market and get it going.
That was probably the biggest reason why I wouldn't buy it. It's just like it's a pain in the butt to load that thing.
All right,
It just takes a while. I'm not that patient. I want to, like, if I buy a gun, I want 4 or 5 mags because I want to load it and just go shoot it and have a good time. I don't want to shoot and then have to reload, shoot and then have to reload. It just, it kind of, I don't know. Let's check the chat real quick. Dan, the firearm guy, says the KSG still a hot seller like it was when it was launched. I love the KSG.
Yeah, it's a crowded space now. So since we launched that product, you got the DP12 that popped in there. You got obviously the Smith and Wesson came out with a version of that. Everybody jumps in there. One of the questions which I get asked often is, what does George think when other companies are inspired by your designs? And he kind of chuckles and he doesn't worry too much about it. He just moves on to the next cool product. So the KSG, in the time it had, sole control of the marketplace for the last 10 years, dominated that self-defense shotgun space, and it's continued to perform very well out there. One of the things that I think people don't know about KelTec is that what we protect is not necessarily the design of a firearm. We protect the manufacturing process. Because the method of manufacturing actually lends itself to be economical while using American-made products across the board. It has to be produced in the United States. American resins, American steels, American labor across the board. And the American labor isn't cheap. Relative to the rest of the world, we're one of the more expensive manufacturing sectors by labor. So you have to. So the approach really is, how do you develop a firearm that can be manufactured economically? So all our patents for the KSG specifically were focused on the manufacturing method, because that was the gold mine. You can go really good on the prices and make it economical and focused. And so when Smith and Wesson came out with their variation, they had to avoid those the patents, which were basically nuanced manufacturing processes. So what you'll find is to produce a double magazine tube select fire bullpup shotgun on there, and they had to approach it differently, and they created the product, but it's going to be heavier and it's more expensive to manufacture.
Awesome. Oh, we do have Ben Sherman's in the chat. What's up, Ben? We got Roger Ray. And here's a question. What do you prefer for home defense? AR, 12 gauge, or 9mm? What is your home defense gun?
It's a shotgun. It's a shotgun. It's 100% a shotgun. I don't need, what's going to happen? I'm going to be walking out of the shower butt naked, and I'm going to get a home invasion. Last thing I'm going to do when I'm irritated is want to aim. I just want to point in a direction and pull the trigger, especially if I know it's a hostile. The other time what's going to hit you is when you're in a deep sleep. You hear that bump in the night and you wake up, you're disoriented, it's dark out.
Right.
Trying to precisely put rounds on a target in that environment is going to be difficult. That's home defense. Everyday carry is different. everyday carry, you're alert, you're awake. This is when you can leverage your training in the range in precision, and that's a different environment. That's your 9 millimeter class, which I go to for that. Um, for now, I think 5.7 is a really good option in that space as well. And the reason for 5.7, it's slimmer, lighter weight, and allows for more compactability within a handgun size platform. But it really depends in the situation. So bump in the night or naked walking out of the shower, shotgun all day long, everyday carry, 9 millimeter. Civil unrest and insurrection, you're going to go with your 5.57 AR variation, because now you're looking at a dystopia, and civil society is broken down, and you're having more field battles at range. That's when you're going to want to pull out one of those. So
Yeah,
it's
I
situational.
tell people that all the time. They're like, "Oh, I want to start shooting long range in case the shit hits the fan." I'm like, "We live in the city, man. Where you gonna shoot 200 yards, 300 yards
Right,
max? I mean, you're not shooting 1,000 yards, you know?
right,
Maybe.
for sure.
Well, you live in a nice house, maybe.
Now,
Um,
I will add to the 12 gauge 9 millimeter or AR. So 12 gauge is great if you have the body type, and you can handle the recoil forces of a 12 gauge. But 410 is a really good option for home defense as well. And we come up with a 410 variation of the KSG and the KSG 410. And for if you have kind of limited mobility, your shoulders are bad, you're kind of done with a 12 gauge recoil system. The 12 gauge and the Hornady critical defense round is an excellent platform for low recoil, and easy use within the home.
yeah, I got a ton of 410 shells, and I got to tell you, I was gonna bring that up. The new shotgun, the KSG and 410, that's on my buy list. So the KSG and 410 is on my buy list. The RFB is on my buy list because I think that's just a cool, unique design. Bullpup 308, very cool gun. And then if I can ever get that 22 pistol, one day I'll find it in stock somewhere. But
We
yeah,
can
those
help you
three are on
out.
my buy list, and because I think very cool stuff, especially the 410, the KSG and 410 would be really trick to get.
Yeah, that's a good shotgun. I like the 410. It has a very low recoil. It's very nice.
All right, another question: would you guys consider making a 5.7 EDC like a G19 size?
Hmm. So what's fun about that question is that the answer to that question for everything is yes. We consider everything. So stay tuned. I have probably 15 years worth of new product releases right now. If I could snap my finger, you'd see new innovative products, 15 product classes that you can iterate various calibers into. We have a really talented design team, and it's headed by George, who is a genius in this art. And so we generally release a new product every year or every other year. And what we're trying to focus on mostly is product release cadence. We in the past we used to get really excited about a new product. We say, hey, go up to a SHOT Show, say, hey, check out this new gun, and then it would take years to ever see that in the shelves. So what we're doing right now is a more focused approach on developing the entire manufacturing process, holding, just being strategically patient, holding the cards close, having a few thousand ready to go with NDA distributors out there, send them up to the gun stores, and then announce the product, and then have it available for everybody. So
I
that's
remember
kind of
when the KSG first came out. That was yes. Where is it? I don't see it anywhere.
yeah,
It's like, oh my god, that is the coolest shotgun ever. And then you saw them
took
on
years.
Gunbroker, just
Yeah.
adding a few $100s to those prices. But man, I was bummed out. I wanted to get one of those so bad for a while, and I got to shoot them. My friends got one, and it's a cool shotgun. But I already had so many shotguns, I didn't need another one, and I couldn't have the boss okay the purchase. So
Well, the problem is the street value. When it's like that, folks are going to charge whatever they want to, whatever people are willing to pay for. So We've seen our guns sell like the P50, that 5.7. We saw one sell for $6,000, and we didn't
Oh
make I didn't
man.
we didn't make $6,000 on that gun. We made, whatever the distributor price is, which was a tiny fraction of that. But when dealers get their hands on a product that nobody else has as a niche thing and new, they're gonna say, hey, 6,000. I'm gonna sit on it until somebody picks it up, and somebody does. And it's usually an early serial number. And that's the other thing, you know, if you end up seeing a new product in the shelves relatively early to release, look at the serial number, because there's a good chance it's a sub 100 or a sub 1,000 serial number range, and that ends up being a collector's item because we do new things all the time.
Nice. Okay, so say George has an idea. What is the average time frame between an idea to the computer to manufacture to actually being in stores?
So back in the 19, he says this every time to his development team, and it's and I give him reasons why it's like this today, but it's about 2 years from his design to in the stores. Back in the 80s when he was starting out, and this was in the Grendel years, he was able to get a product from his brain to the stores in 6 months. And
Oh wow.
6 months, which means it limited in quantity because Grendel wasn't a big shop. But he tells folks that in his Swedish accent. He's like, back in the 90s, I did 6 months from conception to in the product. And of course, now today we're looking at heavy we today's the age of YouTube, okay? Today's the age of YouTube. Back in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't any YouTube, and our solution to a lot of design challenges that would happen on the field was robust warranty system. We'll repair the gun and send it back. Nowadays, the brand could take a lot of damage by being beat up with a bad review. You have a gun that malfunctions, in a wide audience. It's so much more critical. So, um, for us, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the testing and development covers an entire range of kinetic testing. We do things from obstructed board testing, where you weld a slug in there and you blow the gun up because we want to see where the fragmentation goes. We want to see what happens on a squib load. We simulate that. We want to see what happens if there's a half fracture in the chamber. We want to see drop tests. We want to test the gun extensively across an entire range of ammunition. And even then, after all this testing, a reviewer may pick a class of ammunition we never thought existed before. And one of them was the CCI Velociter with a P17. And Firearms Blog Hop picked one of those up and used the Velociter. I had never heard of the Velociter. Our team never heard of Velociter, but it's a really, really fast, powerful round, which overwhelmed the recoil spring, which was designed to, buffer and allow proper
Right.
cycling of the round. And the thing worked like garbage. And we're sitting here watching this review with our, jaws on the floor, going like, what is this Velociter thing? So we bought some of that. I was like, okay, let's do a quick redesign on this pistol. Let's go from a round wire to a flat wire. Let's do a quick update to it, and then anybody who has like an old version will send out a free new spring, and it compensated for that. So again, the YouTube reviews help a lot with our design development. We don't want to lean on that as kind of the testing zone for what we do, but occasionally folks will put it through a scenario which the design intention was to handle it and then it failed. So we look at that carefully and figure out quick solutions for that.
Nice. At least you guys address it. Now, coming from someone that I do gun reviews, but I'm just an average shooter. I'm not a gun expert. I just really like shooting guns. I love new, cool guns. And I've had a couple instances where a gun is malfunctioned, and I'll reach out to the person first, the manufacturer, get their 2 cents. I'll give them a chance I'll still say it malfunctioned, but I'll give them a chance to make it right first before you release the video, because
Sure.
some of these guys just go really hard in the paint, and it's just not fair, or they'll
Right.
take a gun out. I've seen one guy take a gun out, no oil, makes it a point. We didn't oil it at all. We're going to shoot 4,000 rounds and see if it blows up. Well, no shit,
It's gonna blow up. Yeah.
it's going to blow up. Or I don't clean this gun. Like I clean all my guns pretty religiously, but let's check the chat again real quick. Ben Sherman has a very interesting question. Now, I think we talked about this at SHOT Show a little bit, and I built my channel on doing kind of ammo runs and focusing around the ammo supply. As a manufacturer, you're testing all these guns with 2 or 3 rounds, and that must be thousands of rounds of bullets. Have you guys noticed the price of ammo go up or down?
Well, we have noticed back in the COVID years that the price of ammo spiked quite a bit. What we're watching actually is that the ammunition is kind of stabilized right now. What we're seeing come down is 5.7, and that might be a shameless plug for our 5.7 products, but it is coming down as more folks jump in there and they get that online. Um, I was over in DC with Winchester. We were kind of part of the NSSF and a team to, stand in front of Congress and senators to say, hey, firearms industry guys, these are kind of the challenges that we are seeing currently right now. And I spoke on the firearms side, and Winchester, they have an ammunition plant. I can't remember where that is, but they were being assailed for supporting the commercial market, and they're getting beat up by leftists saying that, well, because it's a government facility and Winchester's running it, taxpayer dollars are going to the commercial side. But their argument was, if we don't have the commercial market to um, uh, maintain our revenue flow, then we're going to have to lay hundreds or 1,000 people off because they're into that, and there's a good revenue flow over there. The other thing you have to look at is the primer compounds and the chemicals that are involved with primer compounds. I would see ammunition shortages develop from a lack of primer compounds and the chemicals that comprise that. And primer compounds are nasty stuff. I don't know if anybody's seen any kind of movies that have nitroglycerol. Like, it's basically a pressure sensitive compound that explodes, but that's essentially what primer compound is. In fact, if you drop primer compound on the floor, it'll blow you up, and it can create a horrible industrial accident there. So a lot of those factories that make the primer chemicals, they're usually dislocated away on islands, or they have water on the factory floor, so in case there is an accident, something falls down, it doesn't detonate. Those source chemicals and what comprise those are something that could be vulnerable to shortages, and that goes into primers itself, and finding primers and all of that.
Yeah, I was talking to not another shameless plug. 2A Warehouse, where I buy all my ammo online. 2A Warehouse I was over there on Monday, in fact, and they were talking about gunpowder is still in short supply, and they actually stopped reloading 308. They're just reloading 5.56 now because
Mm,
it takes twice as much powder to load a 308 round, and they can make more money just selling
right.
5.56. So they said the price of powder is still super expensive.
Yeah, yeah, that's another source chemical that, and it's not just the powder itself, is the components that go into the powder, and those are vulnerabilities that I'm sure opponents to the firearms industry are very well aware of, and where to cause the most mayhem and putting extra regulations that don't necessarily need to be there.
Right. Okay, now let's talk about my new favorite gun. New favorite gun. It's the Sub 2000 and 5.7 by 2.8. Now, I'm doing a video on this now, but spoiler warning, it's pretty freaking awesome. And I've shot the 9mm version and the 5.7, and I gotta say, I think that platform was made for the 5.7. It just fits it. The recoil is almost non-existent, and it really feels like that round was made for it. So my question to you is, besides how awesome that gun is, uh, when are we going to get the sub? What do you call it? The CQB version of that, the
What
integrally suppressed.
integrally suppressed. The 5.7 by 28 millimeter, you're going to kind of lose a lot of your suppression with that supersonic round. That's kind of the wheelhouse of it. It has to have that high velocity to be effective in its kind of design characteristics and end stage ballistics out there. So you probably can come up with a subsonic version of that, but then all the tactical advantage of that particular small base round goes away. Um, and it's loud. I don't know if you've ever guys done the experiment of shooting a supersonic round and then follow it up by a subsonic round. The shockwave produced by that supersonic round is quite audible. We I guess what we'll watch, there's no immediate plans for the CQB, the integrally suppressed in 5.7. What we need to watch is how are folks putting on suppressors on the 5.7? Is that a popular thing to do? My brain is more engineering, and I kind of approach things incredibly practically. If I'm going to suppress anything, it's going to be with some sonic ammunition, subsonic 9mm or 300 blackout or something of that class, because I want it to be as incredibly quiet as possible. I just want to hear the trigger mechanism click, and that's it. That's the only noise you hear. The feedback from a supersonic round is quite loud. So we'll look at that. If there's a way to, I have to see what subsonic 5.7s are out there.
Yeah, it's very good. See, that's why you have experts on your live stream, because I didn't really think about that. I just thought about it. I was like, man, it'd be really cool to have that integrally suppressed.
Yeah, I mean, the 9mm makes sense. You mean, you can certainly get subsonic in there, and that's the world of suppressors. If you ever shot subsonics, I know a lot of your fans here have, and they can vouch for it. That shockwave is quite loud.
Yeah, I really enjoy shooting suppressed. I haven't bought a suppressor yet. I think if I can get the old warden to okay it, thank God she doesn't watch my live streams, but if I can get her to okay it, I'm gonna get this Friday. I'm gonna try and get a suppressor on order and hopefully pick it up in a couple days. Now, how crazy is that? How fast people are getting their suppressors?
I've been shocked. I've been really shocked.
4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
It's wild.
I mean, this is under the Biden administration. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, sweep that wasn't the case. I don't know. Somebody cool is in charge there, so let's keep it going.
Well, maybe they just finally fired that old lady with the stamp in the back.
Yeah,
They automated it.
yeah. Maybe for sure. Or they came up with a good process to vet everybody, but that's great. I mean, that's a good direction for sure.
All right. Now, this is a question I got earlier today. What has been the biggest seller for KelTec, hands down? If you had to pick one gun, that thing just flies.
I would say sub 2000 9mm was probably it would be sub 2000 9mm or the PMR 30, followed by the KSG. As we sit here today, watching this video, it's the P17. That's doing really, really well out there. We're noticing that firearms sales generally are kind of weighted to two classes of firearms today. It's either the very expensive luxury items or it's the very economical items.
Right.
So being in the economical side of things, we're seeing of our product lines, the ones that are more favoring your budget seems to be moving the fastest right now. The middle ground guys, I think they're just getting beat up right now. But either they're super high end luxury items, the $6,000 handguns are super precise, or it's your budget platforms.
Yeah, I
But
was
yeah,
talking. Case in point, I was talking to Atlas about 2 weeks ago, and I go, man, has it slowed down for you guys? Like now we're as busy as ever.
yeah,
And they just raised their prices just January 1, not because of any reason, just because they're so busy. He's like, I don't know, people just keep buying these guns. We just keep raising prices, and we're still 10, 11 months out on production. It's
yeah.
They can't make them fast enough. It's wild.
No, that's good. That's very good.
Let's see. Sub 2000 with full M Carbo kit. You don't need the M Carbo kit anymore.
We yeah, those guys they're great. They did some really good stuff for Gen 2. We like anything, when you update a new platform, it's over to those guys to come up with new exciting ways to improve the product, if that's the space they want to dominate, and we're happy to keep that going, and those suggestions are important. So sometimes we don't have the time to do a generational shift in a product immediately. I mean, it took maybe 10 years before we went from Gen 2 to Gen 3. And that was just constant feedback. And then the aftermarket, doing things. And even me meeting buddies that had their Gen 2s and the sights, and not being able to put a sight on them, that was an important feature for us to improve. So yeah, it's unlimited. Whatever they can do with Gen 3, that's awesome.
Yeah, and you know what's weird, man? I bought the Gen 2 on my birthday, and I wanted it for years and years and years. Went out and shot it, and it just something just wasn't clicking for me. And it was almost like you guys watched that video and took care of every single issue that I was bitching about. Because now it's right here, it's folded up. I put a huge optic on it and a ridiculous flashlight, and it still doesn't feel too front heavy. It's just easy to manipulate. The charging handle is fantastic now. The way it folds is super easy. Man, it's a pretty A plus improvement on that gun.
Thank you. No, that's, I mean, you guys, our fans contribute a lot to our design development, and it was a successful product, and I don't believe that it's impossible to. I don't see that we're static in anything. We can always There's always room for improvement, especially if you want to create a product that is meaningful for people and does the thing they want it to do.
Ron Wayne in the chat says KelTec 50 BMG. Now, I know you've probably thought about it.
Yeah, that's a fun round. I mean, I don't see that coming in the next 5 years, but that's fun. I mean, it's funny. We do a lot of prototypes. We have a gray room in our factory where the engineers put together the one-off prototype, and we have all sorts of stuff in there. We have a full auto RDB. We have obviously the metal variations of the RDB, which we call the M43. In fact, if your guys just Google right now KelTec M43, you'll see pictures of this, and you'll probably ask yourself, "Wow, that looks really cool. Why can't I find one of those?" And that's kind of a sad tale. And I haven't given up on M43. I have not.
Well, now you got to tell it.
Now I got to tell it. The sad tale is that the frame of that system, or the receiver housing of that system, is a very complex stamping, and it's very difficult to find tool and die makers nowadays that can do that consistently for a good price point that doesn't make the gun exorbitantly expensive. I had a lot of really cool plans for this thing too, but we're still looking.
What would have been the MSRP if you had made it current?
Oh golly,
would have been priced out of the market.
No, I would say we would try to target MSRP between $1,300 to $1,500, but with kind of the development of a stamping that complex, and it is a quite complex stamping. It would be in the $5,000 to $6,000 range, and that really isn't our wheelhouse. Yeah, that's I'm not really. We have to figure out a better process to do that, and I want folks to enjoy it for what it is. The idea of the M43 was that it was George Kellgren's, one of his favorite designs was the RDB in that rifle platform, because it's a bullpup system, and he really likes the idea of all the space in the stock being utilized in a useful manner. It's not just empty space to hold its position. It's actually serves a purpose. Right. But only used materials and techniques that had existed in 1943. So steels, woods, and resins that there's no resins on the M43. It's steel and wood, and welding. So I like that one. And we're imagining like a box where you put it in like one of those crates, the wood crates with the straw in it, and your manual would be like typewriter typing, and the illustrations will look like they were hand drawn by an artist with all the number figures over there. That's the intention. I think at some point we're going to do that. I just gotta. There's more shopping around for tool and die makers that can probably stand up that process and not have it break everybody's bank, because it doesn't do anybody good if you can't afford it.
Yeah, 100%. Now here's something would be pretty cool, especially in the Gen 3, a sub 2010 mil. I know you guys have thought about this, had to have.
Like I said earlier, there is nothing off the table with this.
I would buy that immediately. I love 10 mil. I love that round.
What would you use a 10 millimeter for? I'll tell you what the folks in Wyoming would use. They shoot bears with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Get some hard cast 10 mil. Oh, man, mama jamma. That would really change the religion of anybody coming through my front door.
Yeah, you'd send them back to their maker.
Yeah, I think that would just be really cool.
Yeah,
that would be the ultimate truck gun.
That would
10
be cool.
mil folding at sub 2000. Oh, that would be pretty sweet. It would sell. I think that one would sell, especially in the Gen 3, design. It would crush. It would absolutely crush.
Yeah.
All right, kid. Any more questions for KelTec? This is your one chance. The guy's here. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no cocaine. I'm sorry, guys. We don't inspire ourselves with bags of cocaine out there.
You know what's funny? Someone
I-
asked me today. They're like, "How much drug?" Because he's like, "Who's on your live tonight?" I'm like, "Oh man, I got KelTec." So he's on the website, and he's not a gun guy. He's looking at all the designs, and he goes, "How much coke are they smoking when they design these guns? They are nuts."
A lot of coke. It's a lot. No, it's so I'll tell you a story of background what a lot drives our designs. So one of the benefits of creating a firearm from absolute scratch, we kind of take the cartridge and then we develop everything around it to do its thing, is that we pay a lot of attention to the latest manufacturing technologies that exist today. So when you're looking to design a slide, for instance, or you're looking to design a trigger mechanism. The things that create high volume, that's precise and repeatable, are the things that's going to leverage American labor and make it affordable end state to where these products, can do well in the market and they don't break your bank. So one of the things that we like to do is lathe mill machine tools. And I don't know how familiar your guys your fans are with actual machining and manufacturing. So lathe mill, basically what it does is you can take rods of half-inch steel or inch steel rods, you throw them into a cassette and it feeds into the machine, and the machine has two turrets, and not only does it feed it through, but it rotates at a high velocity like a lathe, and it comes out and do like external features, lathe work. And then you have live tools that come in and do all the work as well. And this is a completely automated process. You can kind of set the thing off, walk away from it, and it kind of spits out all your precise parts on the backside. And we look at that and we start to design new products that leverage the latest stuff. And I just came back from Chicago at the International Manufacturing Technology Show. It's IMTS. They hold it once every 2 years, and they kind of showcase the very latest in manufacturing technologies like milling machines, horizontal mills, vertical mills, Swiss lathes, which you all have to Google what those things are if you don't know. Turn milling, as well as different ways of welding components together. And so what we do when we do our welding is a lot of TIG welding. That's tungsten inert gas welding, and we use tungsten and argon, and it creates an electron stream. It
Right.
superheats and fuses steel together, and you can get very nice, thin, flat, and hard welds. But now they've come out with laser welding that uses photons. It's photons and nitrogen as its assist gas. And one, nitrogen is a lot cheaper because there's more, like these big factories will suck in atmosphere. Just they breathe in atmosphere, purify everything, and they separate nitrogen, oxygen, and argon. Argon being an assist gas for tungsten inert gas style welding. And you get oxygen, which we use in older oxygen lasers for flat sheet cutting. Then you have nitrogen, which is an assist gas for your fiber direct diode lasers. Now the nitrogen allows you for high volume manufacturing, and now they're doing hand welding systems or even collaborative robotic systems in which you use nitrogen as your assist gas. So it's cheaper and it's a better weld and it's faster. So, you know, we're developing techniques that leverages that latest technology to improve and bring platforms, to the market that are affordable. And I don't want to conflate. I've had this discussion numerous times because Glock was famous for this. They do the polymer pistols out there. The cost of manufacturing those pistols are relatively cheap, but they had a theory that if it was too cheap in the marketplace, people would associate it with poor quality. My father was never too worried about that. He said it needs to be affordable because it has to be. So,
Glocks do not. I have it on very good authority. Glocks are not super expensive to make, and
no.
people would be shocked if they're paying $600-700 for a gun.
Yep.
Trust me, they're pretty inexpensive to make.
Probably underneath $100.
Yeah, I heard they were like $120 max.
Yeah. Probably. I mean, if you have the process right, it's a polymer pistol. It's mass manufacturing, but there is a psychology in pricing something out. But at the end of the day, you can't. My father taught me that something needs to be priced fairly, and that's the end of the day. And if people want to call your products cheap, let the performance speak for themselves. And if the performance is lacking, it's on you to make it right. And
Yeah.
we're doing what we can within our capacity to do that. And of course, all our products have a lifetime warranty. And you send it back as many times as you want to. We'll eventually get it right or your money back. So it's a passion of ours, a passion project of doing that, because at the end of the day, it's a self-defense item. It's your seatbelt for life, and when you need it, it needs to work.
Yeah, and a lot of people can't afford, there's a lot of people like gun people take it for granted that, we have all these guns, and if you're in a better spot in life, you can afford to buy more than one or two guns. But man, if you're check to check and you got a family and you're not really making a lot of money, maybe all you can spend is $300-400 on a pretty good gun, and it's
Yeah.
people want to shit on that whole concept too much. It's too easy to shit on the little people that can't afford really cool guns. And man, you just got to stay focused, folks. I mean, try and grow the sport. Let's check the chat. Ben Sherman, does the Su-16 use standard AR mags?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
I like
Very
that. That was
good.
an easy answer to that question. Yes, it does. Steel or
Um,
polymer, whichever you like.
I'd like to do steel, but I can't. I just go polymer.
So steel magazines are cheaper than polymer mags because they're based on stamping, and stampings are it seems like they're a little bit more high production. When I look at the two and we're buying one, the quotes for polymer seem to be always more expensive, and I don't know if they're just trying to milk milk that market, but the steel ones are more affordable
no
generally.
kidding.
Yeah.
Huh. I wouldn't have thought that. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
What magazines does the 5.7 use?
We use the FN magazine. So it ships with a Pro Mag version of the FN magazine. The FN magazine from FN itself works also great. They're just a higher price point, but you can use either one. But you get a Pro Mag FN in the box.
Ben Sherman says lifetime warranty is a must. Now, your warranty on all your pistols, is it really lifetime?
It's lifetime, and the reason why it's lifetime for the original buyer, because I can't. Once you buy it and you're the first time buyer, we know it's yours. You got it from the shop. You didn't mod it, or I don't know what happens when it's resold a million times out there. We'll still take care of you, but we'll charge you some gunsmithing fees to do whatever. But the out of the box, the lifetime warranty is important. The reason why it's important is because it holds us to a standard where our business will absolutely fail, and we want it to fail if we're not delivering a product that works. If we get overwhelmed with constant warranty returns, we shouldn't be in business. And so we put that sword on a string over our heads to make sure that we're doing it right as much as possible, as perfectly as possible as we can do it. Otherwise, we would be buried in constant warranty return claims.
Yeah. All right, here. Ron says, great. Now I'm going to have to look at a sub 2000 to add to the stable. Smash time, pure pressure. I got to tell you, look, this is someone that's reformed. I didn't like this Gen 2. I didn't like the Gen 1. The Gen 3 is ridiculous. You guys will see the video comes out in about 4 or 5 days. It's pretty awesome, especially in 5.7. Get it in 5.7. I know it's a more expensive round. Now, I'm not going to name names, but someone did a video about 3 years ago, Dan, the firearm guy, that said the 5.7 round was on its way out. It was the next 45 gap. And I think it's just here to stay. I think it's coming back. It is getting a little bit cheaper. And I bought some Fiocchi for about $89 for 150 rounds. Wasn't terrible. And I bought the red box of shit. Anyway, I bought some 50 round boxes at Academy for $29, but used to be $40.
Yeah.
So it is getting a little bit better. So
Well, I'll tell your audience a little bit about why George likes the 5.7 by 28. From a design perspective, it is incredibly reliable in feeding. It's a straight cartridge. It's easy. It goes right into the chamber very easily. There's self-libristic properties of that particular round. Um, and it's slim, so you can fit more in a smaller space. It allows you to do a double stack that stacks so compactly. And so, from a design perspective, you can make some really cool products with that. And that's why we're looking at that. And for the last product, so you have the FN version of the Sub 2000, you have the R50 and the P50, and we might have one more up our sleeves, in the near future, just because it's a really cool round. I hope it doesn't go away. I don't think it will, because I think a lot of folks are, at least designers. There's not a lot of gun designers in America anymore, but the technology you can create with that new platform, it makes for a really cool pistol system.
Nice. Real quick, do you guys have anything for a 17 HMR? For some reason, I was doing an inventory because every year it's good to do an inventory of all your ammo, guns, and all that. Make sure everything's oiled and ready, folks. And I found like 3,000 rounds of 17 HMR, and I have nothing that shoots it. And I'm like, why? I don't even know why I bought it. I just have a
No.
ton of it, so I'm like, man, I need something cool.
Yeah, no, we don't have any heavy 17 HR. I have an RDB in 6.5 Grendel as a prototype. That's a really cool bore gun. I also have one in 300 Blackout, also a cool bore gun.
Oh, 300 blackout would be cool.
Yeah, and suppress. It's a really cool. I've shot a few pigs with that. We just end up having. What ends up happening is that we get so distracted with a cool new thing we come out with. It's like, oh, we just had a technology breakthrough on this mechanical system. All these new things that we're going to make, everything in the back. Let's bring up this new product immediately right now and go. But we're going to get to all these things. KelTec, firearms. The firearms industry is something that lasts forever. I mean, if you look at Beretta, they've been around for 500 years. You hopefully you screw it up. I mean, we don't take any loans. We run it like a lemonade stand, and our passion is to bring some really cool products that they're into the marketplace that keeps you and your family safe. And so that will just drive us into the years to come.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, let me ask you a question. SHOT Show 2025. It's got to be something cooking.
There's something cooking.
One
So
something or two
so
something?
so so we have. I mean, you can Google this. I don't know if we made any kind of like announcement of this, but we have a factory out in Wyoming in a place called Rock Springs. It's in southwestern Wyoming. The long story short of why I went over there back in 2000. Geez, when was it? 2018 maybe, when DeSantis was running against Andrew Gillum. Remember that guy? He ended up getting found naked with a prostitute or something like
Oh, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I do remember that guy.
Yeah, that dude. Anyways, DeSantis won. Rest is history. Florida super red, but that was very thin for us, and we're like, ooh, what does it look like if Florida turns purple or blue? They ban, assault weapons, modern sporting rifles. So we decided we want to go to safe harbor. So we went over, and this was in the height of the COVID pandemic. Business was doing really well, so we had a bunch of money saved up. So we went over to Wyoming because these guys always showed up to SHOT Show saying, "Hey, invest in Wyoming, build a factory out here, move your whole enterprise out here." We really didn't want to do that. We're Florida folks, and we wanted to continue to be Florida folks. But we went out to Wyoming. We found a killer deal on a big building, and we decided to start up a discrete line of production out there. And it's making a new product, and this new product is quintessential George Kelgren. It's a new thing that the world's never seen before, with an action system that doesn't exist in humanity until now, and all the things that we're doing. And we can't leverage a known technology. The development process has to learn these things and the mechanics and the ballistics and the failure modes entirely from scratch. And the folks involved with the development of this system are pretty talented individuals, and we're excited to announce a very cool new thing next year.
Is this a functioning already new thing in
Oh
production?
yeah, we're shooting it. We already put 2000. Like, remember, like I said, I want to do like an iPhone release thing where, like, when we announce it, you can go to the store and buy it. That's kind of my um, that's kind of my vision for that. So I want to so we're building them. It's developing, and we're shooting them. We're testing them. We're blowing them up on purpose. You know, we weld in a something into the bore and shoot it to see what happens when it explodes and all that good stuff. So
Is this in a fun new caliber?
it's in a well, you're really playing. You're gonna have to wait and see.
Classic caliber? Okay, all right. All right.
I will
Man,
say that would make a good show, like the behind the scenes on developing a brand new gun the world's
let
never
me know.
seen.
I'll book a trip. I'll be
Yeah,
out there with the camera and
that's a cool documentary. I mean, we have a lot of footage of kind of failures and successes, and we do a lot of 3D printing. I don't know if you guys know this, but since a lot of our products are polymer to begin with, we can 3D print something that could last maybe 100 rounds before it fails. So we'll build it up. We'll have our tool room come up with some general features of this thing, and we'll go down to a thing, and then always the first shot, you kind of put it on a little fixture, you put a string around the trigger, you hide behind a wall, and then it
yeah.
either goes off, explodes, or it works. And then if it works, it's like, okay, it didn't blow up. Let's shoot it by hand. And then you shoot it by hand, and then you have maybe you'll have like an ejection issue, and you analyze why it had that issue. You look, one of the things you look at in a properly made pistol, or even in any rifle, is kind of the ejection pattern of the round. Is it consistent, or is it going forward once and then backwards once, or right? So you want it to go, off in one direction. So some of the things we make comments are is like, how was the ejection pattern? I think it was consistent in one direction. That's a good thing. Um, and that's also a characteristic of the ammunition too, depending on a number of factors. I could
Right.
go on. I could literally go on for hours on design development and the considerations we make to new products. It's a pretty fascinating topic.
So that factory's in Wyoming, right?
That one is, yeah. This is the one making the new product, and then Florida side, we do everything else down here.
Let me know. I will book a trip. I'll be out there in a couple days. Then we'll release it at SHOT. I'll release the video at SHOT Show
Awesome. We'll
of
be
the
there.
actual product as it sits there. That'd be very cool. So you talked about success and failures. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but is there anything that's failed that you're like, damn, I wish that would have worked out, or wish I would have sold more? Is there anything that's been kind of like a ho hum release where you're like, damn, I thought it would have been so much better?
Yeah, I would say the P50 was a little disappointing on it was an expensive platform, and my dad is such a classical Swede with this. He's like, oh, it's a curio platform. You'll sell 10,000 and then that's it. And he was happy to do it. And we're trying to aggressive marketing. I think that platform, the P50, the space for that is probably better at a lower price point. But that didn't consistently. So generally, when you build it and make a product, from start release to finish to where it's no longer popular anymore, is about 10 years. You're
Okay.
expecting about a 10-year life cycle between release, you know, peak demand, and then it fizzles out and dies, and you go to the next product, or you go and make generation two. This thing kind of spiked, and within 2 to 3 years there really wasn't market demand for that. So we came out with the R50, which was a collapsible stock version of that. We've also came up with an SBR version of that, and we also came up with a brace version of that. But at the time, the brace version of the P50, it was kind of like, um, it was we were dealing with that legislation which made braced guns into SBRs, and we didn't know what it was, and it wasn't on us not wanting to make it, but buyers and distributors who would buy these in bulk were like, I don't want to be locked up with inventory that might be made illegal, or now it's going through the NFA system, and now we're stuck with products. So that kind of made things a little difficult. But if we get more, if I think if the distributors are a little bit more comfortable with brace systems in bulk, I think the P50 in the brace system is a really cool platform. Again, the 5.7 is a very flat shooting round. It's very low recoil, and it's 50
Yeah.
round capacity. Now, you did point out that loading it is a pain, and it's a pain. But we may in tandem release our speed loader for that, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah. You know what? I wanted a 3D print the other day. I had a bunch of pistols lined up and just the basic pistol stand. I I was like, damn, I went online to buy some. Amazon has them for like $35. Atlas sells like a really cool brass one for like $120. And I'm like, man, I wish someone would make like just a pistol stand where you take the magazine out and you just sit the pistol on it and I could display it, you know? I have a 3D printer. I guess I should hook it up.
Do it.
I've had it 2 years.
You should do it.
I don't know, man. I might sell it. I heard one of those bamboo ones are really cool. Those are like the
Yeah.
coolest ones on the block.
Oh yeah. Very cool.
Adrian, thank you so much for coming on. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but man, everyone in the chat, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Adrian, I appreciate your time. You want to leave us with any words of wisdom or more hints about the 2025 release?
No, I mean, we're here just to make new things. That's our passion. And if somebody else does it, we don't do it. So that's our big thing. Just stay tuned. We love. I have a really cool marketing team. They love making content. They love their jobs. If you ever follow us on Instagram, Facebook, any of those guys, just watching the content we put out there, it's always slapstick. We don't take ourselves too seriously, honestly. And I think that comes from the culture of Central Florida, but I love it too because it reminds me of naval aviation. As cool as Hollywood makes us, there are no call signs of Maverick. You know, you never asked me what my call sign was. It was AIDS. Yeah.
Wait, I don't,
And honestly, I had to
you don't
introduce.
give yourself your call sign. It's given to you, right?
It's given to you, yeah. So yeah, so it's
So did you look like
there's
you had AIDS or?
well, I guess it was short for Adrian, but they also try to convince me that some midget had their way with me and like a Manila pork call, and I believed them and went to medical, and it was a big thing, and so AIDS.
Now that's funny.
So yeah, but again, the big thing is like in naval aviation, we try not to take ourselves too seriously. And we do that here too. The idea is to be precisely on point for what we do. We be professionals in that, and don't get yourself too carried away and who you are. At the end of the day, you're just a human too, and we're we're just doing things that we love to do, and that's us.
Outstanding. Words of wisdoms from KelTec, folks. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Dude, that was pretty good.